Deposits. Merits. Number 5. Flexibility. Public deposits allow flexibility in the financial structure of the company, as this could be raised when required and returned when not needed. Let us see the demerits. Number 1. Not suitable for new companies. We are reading the demerits of public deposits. So number 1 demerit is not suitable for new companies. Public deposits are not suitable for new companies, as new companies are unable to use this method, as investors do not deposit money with new companies having no past record and sound credit standing. Since there is no sound credit standing for the company, and so the people or the general public might not deposit money with such new companies. Next is uncertainty. Public deposits are uncertain and unreliable source of finance, as in the period of recession, when the company is in need of finance, the depositors may not respond. So this is very uncertain. Next is not suitable for long-term financing, as the company cannot depend on public deposit for meeting long-term financial requirement, as the maturity period of this public deposit is between 6 months to 3 years. Next is limited fund. A limited amount of fund can be raised to public deposits because of legal restrictions. Public deposit cannot exceed 25% of the share capital and free reserves of the company. Whatever is the amount raised by the share capital, the public deposits can be raised only up to the 25% amount of the share capital, not more than that. So there are some legal restrictions on accepting public deposits. Next is fixed obligation. Also, then interest is to be paid on the fixed deposit against the profits, irrespective of the profit. Even if the company has inadequate profit or no profit, the company needs to pay interest. And the last topic is trade credit. Trade credit is a convenient source of finance with no legal formalities involved. We are seeing the merits of trade credit. So trade credit is a convenient source of finance, as there are no legal formalities involved. Trade credit is a continuous source of finance. It is readily available to credit-worthy companies. The companies which are credit-worthy and can obtain goods on credit, for them it is a continuous source of finance. It can be used to finance the inventory of the business if the enterprise expects higher sales in near future. If the sale is to be increased as per the expectation, the sale would be increasing as per the expectation of the company. The company can increase the inventory of the goods using the finance of trade credit. Trade credit does not create any charge on the assets of the company while providing funds. Also, using this method, we don't create any charge on the assets of the company. Any asset of the company need not to be kept as security against the trade credit. Trade credit also helps to promote the sales of the seller. With the availability of trade credit, the seller's sales promotion can also be made. It also helps the seller to promote the sales. Next is demerit. The availability of easy and flexible trade credit facilities may induce a firm for overtrading, which may increase risk. Whenever there is easy and flexible trade credit facility, it may induce a firm for overtrading. What does it mean? When there are more trade credit facilities available, the business may buy more goods on trade basis, and which may increase the risk of non-selling and non-repayment of the amount of trade credit. Only limited amount of funds for a limited period can be generated through this source. Through trade credit, we cannot generate unlimited amount of or a very huge amount of finance, and we can also not generate it for a longer period of time, because the trade credit is generally for a period of less than 1 year. It is generally a costly source of finance, as when we buy goods on credit, we may need to pay more cost for the goods as compared to cash purchases. So it is generally a costly source of finance. Buyers are unable to take the benefit of cash discount which is available on cash payment. Also, we need to sacrifice the cash discounts available with the cash payments when we buy goods on credit basis. The last thing here is intercorporate deposits. The market of intercorporate deposits maintains secrecy. The brokers in this market never reveal their list of lenders and borrowers. So whenever there are intercorporate deposits, it is a merit that the borrower never reveal the list of lenders and borrowers, and proper secrecy can be maintained. These deposits are generally considered by the borrower company to solve the problems of short-term fund inadequacy. Whenever there is a problem of short-term funds inadequacy, the companies may go for intercorporate deposit and borrowing the deposits from other companies. The transactions are free from bureaucratic and legal problems. Also, this type of intercorporate deposits are free from legal problems, as there are very less legal formalities in this. The limitations of intercorporate deposits are: number 1, intercorporate deposits cannot be used for long-term financing. Next, in intercorporate deposits, the level of risk involved is high, as it is unsecured deposits. Also, intercorporate deposits are unsecured, so it is operating in a high risk. Next is the borrower company has to pay higher rate of interest compared to bank loans. In comparison with the bank loan, the rate of interest in intercorporate deposits is quite high. So these are also the limitations of intercorporate deposits. So in this way we have completed this chapter, and if you have any queries regarding any of the topics, you can text me or call me directly. And I want all of you to watch this videos carefully and please understand things properly, as we are approaching towards the first online unit test and this is included in your syllabus. So please be very careful regarding these videos, and if you have any queries, please text me and call me. Thank you very much and bye.